Chewin on fire.
Hey.
Nugget number 2.
Okay.
All right, so this is coated with wasabi.
Okay.
So just on the top there. So if you want the real burn, you have to flip it upside down and put it on. Oh my. Woo!
Okay. That. That's burning up my nose.
Mine too. Oh. It hit the back of my throat.
How did we go from that to that so quickly? Like,
Whew. Wasabi is a short burst and then it dies.
well, I hope it dies quickly here.
I'm good.
Oh, like I think I could breathe
Woo!
fire out of my nostrils right now. Okay, good.
Oh.
No,
that
we're done.
was- That was a good one.
Piece of cake. I ate the whole thing.
I'm still working on mine.
Good
Oh,
stuff.
I got a second wave. Whoa.
Okay, I hope. Yeah.
Ooh. Oh. Third wave. I keep hitting more. I can't even ask the question.
Yes.
Whoa. Woo. That hurt. All right, we're good. All right, next question. We've touched on this a little bit, but let's take it away from homosexuality and we're just going to talk about sex. So there's 2 questions here. So if I'm in a committed relationship with someone, why do I need to be married for sex to be okay? And then kind of along the same lines, we're like, a marriage license is just a piece of paper. Why do I need that in order to have sex and for it to be okay?
Good questions again. Wow, tough ones. Yeah. Hit me with that first question again.
If I'm in a committed relationship with someone, why do I need to be married for sex to be okay?
Well, I think one of the misconceptions that we have, I'll go back a little bit too, and a lot of times we think, or maybe the impression that we get is, or give is that sex is going to be better when you're in a committed relationship, and not as good if you're living outside of that. And I think that's false. I don't think I agree with that. I think it'll be enjoyable either way. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think when they say okay, they mean right.
But so it has nothing to do with the fact of, is it going to be better, is it going to be worse? No, that has no bearing on it. But one of the things that we're doing when we're having sex with somebody else, when we're having intercourse with somebody else, is we're in a sense we're giving ourselves to that person. That's part of that oneness when in Genesis 1:27-ish, I can't remember, but maybe it's 2:24.
Yeah, I think so.
Where they talk about being one, and that's what's happening in a sense is when we're actually interacting with another person in sexual intercourse, we're actually giving ourselves in oneness to that person. And so if we do that, we are giving ourselves away. And yet God has still designed in our culture and in our world that there is an aspect of two becoming one in a committed relationship, because we're talking about a covenant relationship. You can be committed to each other we're dating and I gave you a promise ring, or I don't even know if they do that anymore, but they make a commitment to a certain degree. But what marriage is doing, it's actually making a covenant. So it's taking it one step further. This is a covenant relationship is beyond just that relationship. That little commitment that you make is between a girlfriend and a boyfriend, and you have sex inside of that if that's what you desire, or if you're living for your desires, that can be broken anytime. But in the church, when we're talking about a marriage and the two becoming one, we're talking about a covenant relationship, something that cannot be broken. Yeah, we can obviously break it. But we need to look at the seriousness of that covenant relationship. What does it mean to live in covenant with each other? I mean, in the Old Testament, it was really a grotesque thing in a sense. You'd cut an animal in half and you'd walk, they'd walk in between there saying that,
ceremony.
like, may this happen to me. If I go against my covenant, if I break this covenant, then may this happen to me. This splitting apart happen to me. So we're talking about a really serious commitment that God has ordained. It's something God created, and so we don't want to live outside of something and defile something that God created to be a beautiful thing. And so God is saying, you can be in a committed relationship, but that's still not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a covenant relationship. Is it about a piece of paper? No, it's absolutely not about a piece of paper. Now, in the day and age we live in now, it does register us with the province and some of those things, but really the significance of that, we're not even saying that that's the most important thing, is that piece of paper. But we are saying, or I'm saying that I believe the most important thing is that covenant relationship with one another. And sex outside of that really isn't bringing it to the level of commitment that God has designed when the two become one, to live in covenant relationship with each other. Right. That's kind of where I see that as.
I think you're taking it back to, like, you've talked about how God ordained marriage and God designed sex.
Right.
So I think really the question behind this question isn't, is it okay to have sex in this context?
Right.
It's actually who designed marriage and who ordained marriage and who designed sex. Because if God ordained marriage, then we actually have to take it on his terms.
Yeah.
And if he didn't, then we can define it however we want.
Right.
Which is what actually I think what we see in our culture, and what we would disagree with. We're like, marriage isn't anything other than what God has ordained it to be, because we believe that God has designed it and ordained marriage and designed sex. So the question behind the question is actually who gets to decide what marriage is. And if it's God, then this question gets answered in light of who God is and what he's designed it to
Exactly.
be.
Yeah.
I think too, there's a little bit of I grew up thinking that once you get married, there's no way that sex can be sinful. But now I am married, and I know that you can have sex in for sinful motives. Like, just because you're married doesn't mean that you no longer struggle with sexual sin. And that was a steep learning curve, right, for me. So there's a few things going on with this question that I'd be like, well, this is kind of what's going on. God designed marriage, which is exactly what you said. And just because you're married doesn't mean that you're all free and clear. Like, you still have to guard your heart. And purity within marriage is still, like, there's conferences on that. So, you're not out of the woods by any means.
No. There's still temptation that goes on, even with other people and outside of that. Sometimes people believe that if they get married, some of their sexual, I don't even know what word to use, but even something like pornography isn't going to automatically go away. Now you're married. That's not going to change that situation necessarily. Because that's not really the heart of the issue there. Right. That has something to do, and so that has a different thing to do with it. That's a really good point. And even looking at, okay, well, what did God create sex for? What was the purpose? Was it specifically for procreation? Was it what is the purpose? Is it does it go way beyond that? Is there joy? Is there pleasure? And there is. I mean, Scripture talks about that. In fact, Solomon, and it talks about it very clearly, very vividly, the pleasure that is involved in it. But again, what are who's the designer, who's the author, and then how is that pleasure lived out in view of God's design for it, right? Yeah.
Chewin on fire.